So, I've come to the conclusion that I am absolutely garbage at introductions. So, we're just going to launch right into this. So, I'm kind of after two things with this. One, I want to build that I can test out some new materials, some new finishes, and whatnot. And so, I'm not going in with crazy expensive materials. And I'm also intending this to be a test bed for future designs. Essentially, I can swap out, let's say, cherry for rosewood and see how that sounds to my own ears, as opposed to relying on what everybody else has to say. So right here, I'm just measuring out this rather wide chunk of cherry, and I'm deciding exactly which side I want to cut into the sides and which side I want to cut into the back. It is big enough that I can get both out of it. And I think that little bit of sapwood is going to make a lovely center stripe. I find jointing these plates a lot easier when they're actually stuck together. So masking tape and super glue it is. Not looking for perfection here, just removing the bulk of it so my metal plates don't stick. So the metal pads keep the center seam in line so I don't end up with some wild variations there, and then we'll just use the clamp and these two long bars to squeeze it together. Most of the time, back straps are made out of mahogany or spruce. I really like walnut. I just think it looks cool. That little extra contrast is just something else. far as I can make out, the only options for holding wide, thin pieces like this are adhesive or vacuums. I don't have a vacuum setup on this rig. And while we're at it, let's make ourselves a bracing template for the back. So I want to throw this question and reply in the comments. Are you more interested in the somewhat tutorial style where I'm explaining kind of what's going on, how I'm doing things? Or should I just shut up and let the work speak for itself? No right or wrong answer. I'm just genuinely curious. And if I'm being totally honest, a little less voiceover work would actually make it a little easier to edit these. Mainly because the dogs like to bark at inopportune times. I laid down a couple pieces of kerfing just to keep my hand plane from bumping into my center stripe, as you can see there. It works okay. I need to find a better method, though. And I 3D printed a little radius gauge to help with consistency. Note to self, no more tripod on the workbench. So I switched over to my wood-bodied plane. It's a little more comfortable for the job and doesn't tend to leave marks all over the place. Let's take a break from the back and get to bending some sides. Lessons learned for the cutaway. Make the whole thing have one large clamping caul. Otherwise you tend to have breakage and all kinds of other problems, at least in my experience. So we're going to drop back in time for just a moment here. You saw the forms in use, but you didn't see how they were made. So I used the width of the bit between the inside and outside forms to allow for a little bit of spring back. The outside forms are set to the actual size, and the bending forms are actually just a little bit undersized. To borrow from a popular machinist channel, chamfer everything. In this case, it helps with glue up too. Lets the squeeze out hide somewhere. The trade-offs we make between visibility and sawdust. Partly cloudy days and open windows are not ideal for filming. But you know what? I'm just one guy shooting this in his shop. Oh, hi there, Shadow. Nice of you to make an appearance. No making off with my wood chunks, though. I'm watching you. Could I program a lot of this work on the CNC? Yes. But if I let the machine do everything, that would be a pretty boring video, wouldn't it? So in the interests of letting machines take over some of the more boring tasks I have to deal with, I tried to make some kerfing on the CNC. As you can see, it turned into complete and utter mayhem. I cannot recommend this method at all. It's going to need much refinement. So I just used a cross-cut sled with a stop and a small saw blade out of a skill saw for this. The footage was really bad. Sorry, I don't have any dry jokes to insert here. After all, we're dealing with wet glue. Just got a little gap at the top of the neck block. Good news is, the binding will take most of that off anyways. Just gonna glue the top to the rim here. Don't worry, we're gonna cover that in the next video. In fact, I'll give you a little sneak preview for next episode. We'll be peeling up more masking tape, using a router to cut a notch, and hoping that everything doesn't implode. Stick around to find out if it survived.